for coming out tonight. Y'all look good. I'm going to begin with where that introduction started. When I was a young guy, a wee tot, this is a true story, I'm not making this up. I went into my mother's bedroom. She had this little nook that sat next to her bed. It was this green, ugly thing. And I sort of, was playing through the books, and I was like, oh, what is that? And I pulled this out. Can anyone see that? It's Suzanne Summers, star of the hit show She's the Sheriff. I literally found this probably when I was in middle school. So we're talking 20 years now. And for some reason, it resonated with me. If you'll notice, there's poems and black and white photographs. And I told myself, I can do that. I can make books that have poems and black and white photographs. The trick was, however, Xbox got in the way, and NFL football got in the way. All the stuff that I enjoy, Star Wars got in the way. And eventually, when I got to be in my 30s, my wife, who's sitting right over here, said, you need to go and get a degree. And I was like, okay. So it dawned on me, hey man, I can go get a degree, but in order to get the degree, I can make the book like Suzanne Summers. Word up. And I have done just that. This is man poems, from beers and gears to grills and girls. Yeah!
Real poems for real men.
Word up. And part of my philosophy in writing poetry, before I even started the program, I always felt that poetry was something that was sort of exclusive to fancy people, academia, And anytime that I mention I'm a poet, particularly to my coworkers, they get this sort of face, this sort of like, oh, that's very, very, very fancy, and we can't understand poetry. And part of what I've tried to do is writing man poems is write about things that are accessible and that would be interesting to 20 to 40-year-olds. And so that's what man poems is all about. And so I'm going to read a few selections from man poems tonight. And I'm going to start off big time with one of my favorite poems. It's called Beer Mug. I originally wrote this poem when I just got back from Boston. I had visited the greatest place in the entire world, the Sam Adams Brewery. And I had purchased for myself a wonderful Sam Adams beer mug. Beautiful glass, adorned on the front was the Sam Adams logo. And truth be told, one day I was sitting there drinking an Oktoberfest out of it, and I said, you know what? This deserves a poem. Beer Mug. For your clarity, for your transparency, for your unambiguous demeanor as you patiently wait for me. For your fragility, for your durability, for your smooth exterior and impeccable shape. For your firm lines, for your rounded beauty, for your elegant contours which match those of my hand. For your unending depth, for your refreshing dependency, for your cool to the touch and the warmth you deliver. For your intoxicating character, for your occasional frosty behavior, for your generosity and every ounce of yourself we've shared together, for your never denying my pressing lips, for your everlasting yield to my caress. For even in your emptiness you hold a promise of all that could be, should be, and is to come. For my friend and late night companion, Beer Mug. Since I got into the program, I'll admit, when I first started 2.5 years ago, I had no clue what I was doing. And one of my professors, Ralph T. Wilson, who is a fantastic poet, author of A Black Bridge, told me that I need to start thinking about invention in my poetry, which is some sort of idea or gimmick, that sets the poem apart from just typical sitting down and writing. And so this idea came to me that I wanted to write about hot Asian porn. Word up. And I thought, you know what, if I'm writing about Asian porn, why not use the most awesome of all poetry styles, the haiku? And as you know, the haiku is comprised of simple 3-line stanzas, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. Well, I was like, let's Mac out that haiku and write an entire poem that is comprised completely of lines of 575. This is hot Asian porn. It was a birthday gift from friends in college, more specifically a dirty magazine, Hot Asian Porn, direct from Japan. It was a dependable friend, particularly at 2 a.m. when everyone had been taken or already gone to bed. Adorning the front were 2 sweet, delicate girls, locked in an innocent embrace, covered only in sheer panties and naughty smirks. The girls gave way to over 100 pages of godlessness and heart-stopping filth, the kind that stimulates fiery desires and leaves nothing to the imagination. Always return to the black shiny wrapper. I made good on my word to tuck her safely away to a secret space, to my hiding place, away from prying hands and jealous eyes, until one day I walked in and saw my wife holding her. God damn! God damn this hot Asian porn and all excuses for owning it. I could not claim weakness, I could not claim stupidity, and I certainly could not claim that I owned that magazine for all the well-written articles. This book, Man Poems, From Beers to Gears to Girls and Girls, is dedicated to my father. He is, I'm going to start getting emotional. I lost my father in 2000, and he is my hero. He was my best friend, other than my wife. I miss him every single day. He was the greatest person I ever knew. Beginning this book, I have a poem that's written for him, and I told myself when I was getting ready to finish this up that I wanted to write one more. He's from Baltimore. He was a walking Baltimore Colts, Baltimore Orioles encyclopedia. And part of that he passed down to me, and I told myself I wanted to write a poem for my father, and that I wanted to be about the Baltimore Colts. So I wrote this poem for my dad, and I wanted to make sure that when I presented part of my capstone, that the importance that he played on me is reflected in my reading. This is called When Unitas Passed to Bury. When Unitas passed to bury, I was not alive to see the glory days of Baltimore, to experience the city in its days of modern transition, to ride the streetcars from junction to junction, passing row after row of brownstone homes, its residents living and dying on the weekly Sunday ritual of watching their beloved blue and white, the Baltimore Colts, storm the field at nearby Memorial Stadium. At the time, I was still little more than an idea indelibly imprinted in the recesses of my father's DNA. Week after week, my father would attack the upper deck with my Uncle Mike, the two merrily drunk on cold national beer. And on those many occasions, when Unitas passed to bury, the Life 82 would pivot sideways, leaving D-backs in his wake. On Finding Daylight in the end zone, my father would scream in unison with the frenzied crowd, "Let's go, you Baltimore Colts! Fight! Fight! Fight!" Once I was born, just weeks after a shutout loss to cap a losing season, my father and mother brought me home to a tiny apartment along West 33rd Street where the foundations of Baltimore gridiron legends were paved into my heart. The lore and tradition that had sustained my father was steadily ingrained into me to be kindled and remembered with nearly every winter frosted breath. As years have passed, I still watch today when the Colts in their blue and white charge onto the field. I madly burn inside when Manning spreads the defense, finding one of his many open receivers, finding the daylight, hitting the end zone. With another 6 on the board, I distinctly hear the echoes of my father's ghosts screaming from the rafters of my DNA. "God damn you, Bob Irsay, you son of a bitch. You, your football team, and the entire city of Indianapolis can go to hell." And there's a footnote. Robert Irsay, a son of a bitch, moved the beloved Colts in the middle of the night on March 29th, 1984 to Indianapolis, breaking the collective hearts of the city and Baltimore fans everywhere. One of my philosophies as a poet, and a poet who reads man poems from beers to beers to girls and girls, is that when you go and see a poet read, by golly, it should feel like you're at a rock concert, if a poet is doing it correctly. And so one of my things that I figured out early on was I needed a closer. When you go see Bon Jovi, what are they going to end with? What's Bon Jovi going to end with? Are they going to end with like the song that was like on the second side of the second album that no one knows? Hell no! They're going to end with Wanted Dead or Alive. When you go see Def Leppard, what are they going to end with? Pour Some Sugar on Me. Word up. And when you go and hear man poems, you're going to hear 80s rock song.
Yeah.
Woo! Now, what you need to know about 80s rock song, which is kind of funny because my teacher, Ralph Tejada Wilson, author of A Black Bridge, hates this poem because he says, it's cliche. Well, like, duh, it's an 80s rock song. And what you need to know about 80s music, if you don't already, is that almost 99.9% of all songs that were composed by heavy metal bands / hard rock bands in the 1980s was that they revolve around three important themes: night, rock, and love / sex. In fact, if you go and look at nearly all 350 songs that Kiss has written, the word night, rock, or love is in nearly 20% of them. Yeah, mind-boggling, isn't it? So I told myself, you need a poem that's about rock, night, and love. Woo! 80s rock song, y'all. 80s rock song. Know this feeling, I can feel it. A wild sensation down my back. So exciting, so inviting. Gotta do it all night long. Once you hear with me, girl, you've got something I can't believe. I need action and satisfaction. Just say yes. Yes to me. Take it in and out, I'll show you what it's all about. When we rock and roll into the night, we're shaking it and taking it till the morning light. Rock through the night, roll till dawn, crank up the volume, it's time to get it on. I will take you higher and higher, hotter and hotter. Set the night on fire. Best time that you ever had. Don't tell your mom and your dad. When we rock and roll into the night, we're shaking it and taking it